Alright, so this morning at 6:01:44 we received the first of many 911 calls reporting a fire in the 1100 block of 5th Avenue South. This is a building that contains 5 occupancies. It's freestanding. It's 2 stories. And the first arriving unit was on the scene at 6:06:31. So approximately 4.5–5 minutes, the first unit on the scene with very heavy fire and smoke showing. If you look at the front of the building, you'll see very heavy fire damage in the area of the roof and what we call is a soffit. There's a soffit that's built around a unique structure around this entire freestanding occupancy here on 5th Avenue South. It appears that the fire may have started at the front of the building. We're looking in the area of some lights and electrical. So that's where it appears that the fire started. Fire spread both laterally, horizontally, vertically, and gets in all of these hidden spaces in this roof and just travels. It's an older building that's been re-roofed or roofed over. What you'll find up on the roof is about 8–10 inches thick of foam insulation, and then they roof over that. Now the problem with that's extremely flammable material. It's like a cooler, you know, a foam insulation cooler. And that's very, very flammable material. Again, you have all of the wood, everything that's burning. The 5 occupancies have varying amounts of damage. But again, going back to arrival on the scene here at 6:06, very heavy fire, very heavy smoke. The incident commander, Pete DeMaria, reports right away that we have a working fire, brings 15 firefighters, 2 engines, 2 ladders, a rescue, and a battalion chief, and it's all hands operating. They got 2 lines off. They knocked the fire down within about 15 minutes. The exterior fire that's burning, again, it's spreading in multiple directions. It takes more than an hour to bring it under control, and then probably a total of 2 hours before we dig it all out and root out all of the pockets of fire that were spreading. Pulling up, getting those 2 lines off, we start doing a primary search as we're making our way through it. That's a hasty sort of search. We have smoke in all of these occupancies. You can't see your hand in front of your face. We got water and fire, right? And after all of that's knocked down, we're checking for extension. We conduct what's called a secondary search, where we do a thorough, systematic search of the building. We take our time, conditions have improved, and unfortunately we find a body on the 2nd floor. And Lieutenant Barkley will speak to that in a minute.
Chief, when you say occupancies, so were these like apartments up top?
No, what we have is one apartment on the 2nd floor that sits really up on the roof structure, and then you have 4 occupancies on the 1st floor. You have a mattress company, you have a art gallery, then you have an art and frame, and then on the corner you have a florist. So the numbers start at 1074, 1076, 1078, 1080, and 1082 for the 5 occupancies here. While we're talking about that, a rough estimate is probably going to be in excess of $2 million in terms of contents and structural damage. And probably the way it looks is that you have more content damage than structural damage. But the smoke is so insidious, the carbon monoxide and the hydrogen cyanide that's produced. The 2 biggest gases produced in any sort of fire are hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide. Both mimic each other. Hydrogen cyanide is produced when you have plastics that are burning. It's extremely deadly gas. It'll put you to sleep like carbon monoxide. Again, it mimics carbon monoxide, more or less a colorless, odorless gas. And so you could really have sort of clear conditions, and your apartment would fill with carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide or any livable space, and it's incompatible with human life. It just doesn't take long. Let me just look at my notes here, see if there's anything else. So all of our units are engaged in operating at this fire. The incident commander called in both North Naples and East Naples that took up residents in our 2 fire stations, 1 north, 1 south. It's been extremely busy, 24-hour period. Very unusual for us to have, I think we had 6 or 7 fires in the 24-hour period. which is very, very unusual.
Does it have anything to do with like people having like space heaters on?
No. They were a combination of brush fires. We had a dumpster fire here on this property, up against this building. If you just look west of us, there's a dumpster. We had a fire here yesterday afternoon. If you would tell me that we would have a dumpster fire on the same property as a fatal fire the next morning, I wouldn't believe it. So very unusual period for us in Naples, but fire strikes everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in the city of Naples, North Naples, East Naples, fire is a fact of life. It's been a fact of life since the caveman. Fire is very, very dangerous, and it's life-threatening, and unfortunately sometimes it kills.
How about sprinklers inside working?
There's no sprinklers in this building. There is smoke detectors, and part of our investigation will find out if the smoke detectors were working or not. As I may have mentioned when we first started here, this is a joint investigation with Naples PD, the State Fire Marshal's Office, and the City of Naples Fire Rescue Department working jointly here. The State Fire Marshal is on the scene. They come out of Fort Myers. They've taken samples. Those samples will be sent to Tallahassee to the State Fire Marshal's lab, and they'll be reviewed, analyzed, and we won't have those results for at least a week, perhaps 2 weeks, before we get those lab results back.
But you don't think this is
right now
suspicious?
we're looking at the very real possibility of being electrical. If you look at the front of the building, you'll see a lot of electrical conduit. You'll see 2 boxes there at the front, and if you look at any sort of fire, it's a V pattern. The fires start in a V and then spread out. So there's a very good V description, or map, if you will, or indication of where that fire may have started and then spread out from there, and then unfortunately got into that roof structure, and there's evidence of smoke actually seeping up into the livable apartment through the floorboards. You know, it's coming up from the floor because it's in that roof section above and below and on the sides. So very unique circumstances. So again, call received at 6:01. It's dispatched at 6:02, which is very, very prompt, very fast. We're on the scene at 6:06. Working fires declared at 6:07. 2 lines of stretch, 15 minutes before the fire is brought under control. At least, I'm sorry, before it's knocked down. At least an hour before it's brought under control, and then about 2 hours before we completely extinguish the fire. And that's with a lot of work. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Lieutenant Barkley, and then we can go back and answer any questions that you may have.
Hi.
No. The fire department firefighters on scene notified our officers they're on scene that they did discover a body, and you can see the apartment on the 2nd floor of the structure behind us. It is one apartment occupied by a white male in his 30s. He has been identified. At this time, we're not releasing his name pending notification next to kin. I can probably get you that information later on today. Cause of death is yet to be determined. He's going to be transported to the Carter County Medical Examiner's office for exact cause of death. That's really all I have right now from our aspect. If there's anything else develops during the day, I'll release that on the press.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Did the fire actually start then in the apartment, or was it just up front here?
The fire started, and what we can do is we can walk you over there. Well, if you look, you see just to the left of the ladder, right? You can see it kind of a V pattern there, but the fire, we believe, started right in about the center, maybe a little bit to the left on this downslope, where you have extreme fire damage there. This is the apartment above, so you can see with the corner
right here,
right above, just on the other side of that sign.
Okay.
So you can see that the fire burned in, and was burning underneath that floor, because that's the floor of that apartment. So all of that smoke, heat and smoke rise, and so everything that's burning right below that apartment is burning on the outside of that CBS exterior, and then the fire communicated and burned. It burns upward, and again, the smoke, the carbon monoxide and the hydrogen cyanide are the most insidious gases, and the fire, you know, would quickly spread. So the wind is out of the northwest, so this building is being buffeted right by the wind, and that's again pushing everything this way, so the fire spreads and gets into that apartment.
Do you know how old this building is?
We don't. I mean,
It's
that'll
pretty
be
old. Yeah, it's like
that'll be part of our investigation, is looking at the age of the building, permits, when was work done in the building, etc.
So, is it that restoration store then, the art and restoration store that it started in?
Well, the fire started on the outside.
Okay, outside
right?
of that.
It started on the outside, and then it burned into the attic, which is above all of these occupancies.
Okay.
And then the fire burned upward, and then got into the roof structure. If you look around the other side, maybe we can do something with it and get you some video. But very heavy damage on the roof itself.
Okay.
And you can see those blocks of foam. And then, you know, again, that's just extremely flammable material, like an igloo cooler, you know.
Is that normal to put under roofing, or is it?
They occasionally do that type of construction. When they do these roof overs, they'll put some blocks of foam in, and then make a slope down so the water runs off. So it'll start with a thick block and then run to smaller blocks in the back. Then it's covered and sheeted again, and then torched down with the roofing material.
Is it something you don't recommend?
Well, a lot of places do it, especially if they're old structures, and then they want it to look nice and new again. So it's just part of the construction.
Thank you.
The question was how many 911 calls. I don't know, but what we can do is we can get those calls, and then we can release, you know, a couple of them later on today. It's going to take just a little bit of time to gather that up, but I'm told that there was multiple calls, and you know, this is a very this is a high frequency traveled road, and so a lot of people would have seen it. I believe that we do have very good pictures of first arrival, and we'll get that out to everyone. So we have to dig through that in our office, download the stuff, and we'll be able to get that out. So I think we have good pictures depicting what was showing on arrival. If you want to get up here and get some good pictures on the front where we're talking about where we believe that the fire started, and then we can perhaps do something on the back to show you up on the roof on the amount of damage, or maybe even up on the aerial. Then we're not up on somebody's roof.
So you're saying it could have started though, and like people don't know to call because they don't see the flame, and meanwhile this gas is...
Well, here's a couple of factors. You have one of the coldest nights in years, right? So everyone's bundled up, everything's closed up, so you don't really have the frequency of people that are perhaps out as early as they would be walking their dogs and whatnot because of the colder weather. So I think that, you know, could be a factor in the fire burning a little longer than usual on a major thoroughfare before being noticed. And where everything is bundled up, and again, the wind is coming out of the northwest, so the smoke and everything's going to be blowing this way, you know.
And I know you can't say this for sure, but are you then leaning toward the idea that he inhaled some of these gases and died before he was burned?
That's a very real, you know, potential.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide are deadly gases.
Right.
That's something that the medical examiner will be able to determine, though.
Where's the entrance to the apartment?
Right there. That open door right there.
And it's just what? How many flights of stairs?
One flight.
Yeah, just one long flight that goes to the second floor. I believe that the number is 1078.
Do you know how big the apartment is?
Nah,
Is
I
it
mean
all
that
this?
entire
entire first floor?
Okay. And only one person was inside?
It's almost kind of like a split
Only
level
one
to
person
just
was
go
inside,
across the whole.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
victim.
it ends. Well, you'll be able to see from the other side, but it kind of just goes back
Ends right
there.
there.
There's a wall there. Yeah.
You know, in terms of fire fatalities, we've had fire fatalities in the past. Obviously, having one today, and you know, as that goes, we'll have fire fatalities in the future. Again, like I said, fire is extremely deadly, and when you have these sort of gases, carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide, what they do is they deaden the senses. Because remember what I told you, it mimics carbon monoxide. So those deaden your senses. You don't act properly. They're confusing, you know, to the central nervous system, and so you don't act rationally. You don't act
If you're
normally.
asleep to begin with.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So you know, anytime that you have fires early in the morning, you know, extremely dangerous.
Do you know when the